Hey again. I decided to share a story of mine after I was thinking about it late last night. I'm like, man, that is a pretty crazy story. Somebody did say to me, one of my good friends said something about maybe I should work on a little eye contact. Ironically, I'm wearing glasses so you can't see my eyes at all, but not for that reason. It's just pretty bright out. But um, yeah, a few weeks ago, I was on my way to the city. I won't say where, but I was on my way to an appointment. And on the way to the appointment, I was listening to some like faithful, religious type of inspirational um, Spotify recordings or whatever. Because that's where I'm at in my life. I'm a lot better now than I was a few weeks ago, but it's been a year, as I've said in my other video. But anyway, so I'm on my way to that appointment, and well, I'm on my way there, and I'm listening to these recordings. I'm like, man, like, how did things come to this? So I decided to go to a walk-in mental health clinic at the VA. I've been out of the military for about a year, a little over a year now. And anyway, so I pull into the mental health clinic, and this day and age, it's not really normal, I don't think, to reach out for help. I mean, it wasn't normal for me, but I wasn't doing good. And I'm not suicidal, not wanting to hurt anybody or, like I said, or myself, but just, man, just stress to the extent, like having chest pains periodically. I mean, I got an EKG done, just don't really want to drop dead. I mean, it does happen, not generally to people that are in all right shape and whatnot, but so needless to say, I pull into this mental health clinic and I was having a day. Um, you could definitely see it all over my face, without a doubt. So I walk into this mental health clinic, as I keep saying, and I approached the lady at the front desk. There was three women that were sitting there, and the lady was not rude by any means, but she was monotoned as if there wasn't a care in the world. And I don't want to say this as I'm like, oh, I'm feeling sorry for myself, because that's not what I mean. She was so empty. And I walk in there, which I was very, very nervous, almost ashamed, I guess. And I asked to talk to somebody. And she said, yep, here, she handed me a form. She's like, I'm just going to need you to fill this out. And man, with how empty she was, it just really upset me. And not so much for myself, but for the next person that walks in there as broken as I was that day. I didn't say anything though. I walked away, sat in the waiting room. I'm filling out this questionnaire. And if anybody's been in the military, at least within the last 10, 20 years, I'm assuming they filled out a lot of these like I have. Because the military is big on mental health. And, generally you're circling a number to a number, say 0 to 4 in this case, on the severity of how often or how severe your, for example, worry is, or lack of sleep, and a lot of other things. And I filled these out countless times in the 8 years that I was in the reserves, and they've never meant anything to me. Just, just fill them out to get rid of them, essentially. So I'm filling this out. As I'm filling it out, I realize it's for PTSD. That's not what I was there for. Had nothing to do with anything like that. So I, said something to the lady at the front desk, kind of from where I was sitting in the waiting room. And she's like, no, she's like, just fill it out best you can. So okay, I'm like, okay, I did. And as I'm going through the questions, I'm realizing, I'm like, man, okay, that's a 4, that's a 4. And then, one of the questions was, on a 0 to 4 scale, how much do you worry, or something along those lines. And I I circled 4, then I crossed it out, and I drew a 5 on the paper and circled it. I don't know. I did. I don't really care. And I realized after I'm going through this list, I'm like, I actually, tears started streaming down my face, dripping on the paper that I'm filling out. And I guess it kind of put things into perspective for me. I didn't realize how damaged I was, or how much I've been through, or whatever it was. It clicked. I'm like, man, I am quite concerned with myself. And there's been, a handful of times this year where I've been at a low like that. But I finished filling out the form. And this is where I don't know if I made a mistake or not, but I decided to walk up to that lady and I handed her the completed sheet. And I said to the lady, because I really have been known my entire life to not really have much of a filter. I like to consider myself a pretty respectful person, or at least I try to be. But I really, really don't have a filter anymore. And I handed the form back to the lady, and I said to her, I'm like, ma'am, as I leaned in, and she could hear me along with the two other ladies and apparently other people that were around, which I'll get to. And I said, ma'am, I mean, no disrespect. Please take this as constructive criticism. But when somebody comes into this building like I did today, you at least pretend to care. This isn't a DMV. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but just pretend you care. And the two other ladies kind of were like, whoa. And she looked like she was, I caught her off guard. I don't think she was offended. I think I embarrassed her, and I feel bad about that. But hopefully I made an impact on her. Maybe the next person that went in there, she's just going to pretend to care a little bit, because if anybody is like me, it's nice to at least feel like somebody cares, especially when you're not doing so good. So anyway, I continued to walk back into the waiting room after I handed her the form, and I was quite emotional at the moment, and I sit down. This waiting room was empty this entire time, by the way. I probably wouldn't have been so comfortable getting emotional if there were people in there with me. And all of a sudden, this guy comes around the corner. He's a police officer, and he's like, hey, real quietly and very sincere. Like, he couldn't have been more sincere. Like, this guy genuinely cared so much. He says, are you all right? I'm like, hey, and I apologized to him. He's like, no, listen. He's like, trust me. He's like, I get it. He's like, you're not the first to kind of imply something along those lines. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, because I felt bad. I felt bad for embarrassing the lady or whatever. But anyway, the guy's like, hey, dude, don't feel obligated, but if you need somebody to talk to while you're waiting, and this guy sat down with me, and like I just spilled everything out, almost like purging. Poor guy. But he was a good guy, and he even paused me, because he mixed up some of the things I was telling him, and he paused me to get some clarification, like he was invested in the conversation. And that guy doesn't know what he did for me at that moment. Like, honestly, I don't know what he did for me, other than it was incredibly powerful. So anyway, I guess the moral of the story is, like, you never know what you're doing for somebody else. You really don't. You don't know when you're going to be there for somebody that's not doing well, or they're having a hard day. And yeah, I guess that's really my story. I guess I don't really know. Maybe this will help somebody. Maybe this will inspire somebody else to reach out and help somebody else like this guy did me, because yeah, it was pretty cool. And I was leaving the appointment, and I actually said to the lady at the front desk, I asked her, I'm like, hey, is that cop still here? Because I never caught his name. And she's like, oh yeah, you mean, she said his name. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, he I don't know where he went. He left a little while ago. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I left my full name and my phone number. I'm like, hey, you should add me on social media or something. And I hand it to the lady. I'm like, yeah, I generally don't give my phone number out to other men, but I'll make an exception for this one. They thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, and it's pretty cool. This guy ended up reaching out to me on Instagram, just seeing how things are going, and we've talked occasionally, and just pretty cool. I don't know. I would like to hear a story like that. I figured other people must. It's real. It's real as could be. Not many people are gonna admit that they're checking themselves into a mental health facility, but it's not like I'm losing my mind. It's just, if anybody knew what I was going through, they'd be quite understanding, honestly, to say the least. But I hope everybody is doing well, and I'm here if anybody ever needs anybody to talk to. Take care.